Hey guys, we're going to do a quick little video over where bucks bed. And some of these are going to be really common sense approaches, but some of them I think are going to really surprise you in regards to understanding your terrain and then understanding where those potential buck beds are. So the first one we're going to talk about is tall grass. You know, whitetail bucks love to bed down the CRP ground, goldenrod, and any kind of marsh or prairie grass where they can just be above or be able to see through that grass there. And one thing I've really learned about big mature bucks is those deer are, chances are they're in there, but you will never see them. You know, you'll jump up a bunch of does a lot of times. Really the only exception to this is during that rut when those bucks are with that doe. But I think if you look back and think back, I think you'll probably agree with me for the most part in regards to seeing those bucks. The only times you typically see them pushed out is if they're following those does, and the rest of the time you're just seeing does scatter because those bucks are about 40, 50, 100 yards ahead of them getting out of there. And then the next one is going to be conifers, you know, any kind of dense, low-growing pine thickets or cedar groves make perfect bedding layers. So, you know, they may not be right out there at the gate, but they may be in there a little bit. And then, you know, always keep that in mind. And then the next one's going to be hillside benches there. So if you're down there in the boot hill or any kind of where you got kind of some hilly terrain there, you know, any flat spot or a slope is a comfortable place for a buck to rest and watch for danger. You know, those deer, those bucks, what I've figured out is what they'll end up doing is they'll be able to see downwind and then anything, so they'll basically have that wind blowing over their back, so they will sense anything coming from behind them because of the wind, and they'll be able to see anything that would be in front of them, and that way they've got pretty much, we'll say at least, you know, 280 degrees figured out there, and they're going to be out of there before you even get the chance to see them again. The other thing is going to be blowdowns. You know, bucks, they love to back themselves up into against thick cover, and you know, blowdown is very ideal for this. Had a good friend of mine. Yeah, he came in, hunted a spot, ended up shooting a deer, and we ended up tracking this deer and tracking this deer and tracking this deer. Well, unfortunately, we didn't end up recovering the deer, but we did end up pushing the deer. And fortunately, it didn't look like it was a lethal hit. The deer just jumped up and ran like the wind. But what we ended up doing was we ended up bringing a dog through there to try to track that. And in the meantime, that dog kept going, and he did a good job. But I kept looking, and we found ourselves in a stopping point. Well, I started looking into some thicker blowdowns there, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go over there and just kind of see. And sure enough, I ended up going around that and pushing that deer out. And you know, whether they're hit or they're not, I think that deer had bedded in there. It looked like that was a pretty firm bed once I went back in there. So that's just something else to keep in mind. And you know, up there in Kansas, we absolutely love you know, using the hedgerows there. You know, any kind of thick fence row, tree line, and will really hide a buck there with a good view to both sides. And you know, again, with those deer, those bucks will bed. They're extremely smart, and they're out of there before you know it. And then those does are left behind, and those are the ones, you know, typically you just see out of there. The next area is going to be rivers or creek beds or banks. So basically, you know, any kind of a high brushy bank, it really gives a buck a great view and security cover along the natural travel corridors there. So basically, it's just really easy access to be able to have great cover. Give them a lot of times, you know, those rivers, especially up there in Kansas where we hunt a lot, you know, they're going to be right there agriculture, so those deer just aren't moving. You know, if they're going to be out of there, they're going to be out of there because of hunting pressure. And if not, you know, those deer may only move 60, 80, maybe, you know, 100 yards at the most on a daily pattern until that rut really kicks in. And then the very last one is going to be ridge ends. And then this is going to be specifically kind of in the hill country there. You know, bucks love to bed just down from the point of a ridge or a spur there, which offers a great view below and plenty of escape routes there. So, you know, the biggest thing to learn about all of these, all 7 of those, from the tall grass to the conifers to hillside benches to the blowdowns, the hedgerows, river, creek banks, and then those ridge ends, is those bucks will create themselves in a bedding area or bedding pattern where they are able to easily escape, but also have access to food, cover, and water within a small amount of area there. So, you know, you may get frustrated at points in times not seeing those big mature bucks, but they are there, and they're all across this nation. And that's the greatest thing about whitetail deer hunting, is those bucks, they're gonna be there. You know, there may be a few of them that get shot you know, throughout the season that you'd like to see survive through, but you know, hey, that's hunting. You know, go shake that hunter's hand and congratulate them, and then, you know, move on from there, and I think you're gonna be just fine. So hopefully this helps you guys out on some tips on where a buck beds, and hopefully this provides a lot of successful hints in regards to your guys' upcoming hunt. So hopefully you guys are getting out there in nature. Like always, best luck on your upcoming hunt.